Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and this is my review for some of the aspects within Forthright Open Role-Playing game. Forthright Open Roleplay, which is a brand new 2017 core rulebook for a tabletop role-playing game that is a universal role-playing system. It can be used to run anything, any storyline, any world. Very, very powerful rule set. So some of the dials within it, one of them is rapport, right? So it talks about rapport, and so one of the things that I really liked about this game is for the guide. So the player characters are called protagonists, and the game master is called a guide. So for the guide, there are all these dials given to deal with the player with the protagonists, right? And also the NPCs. So along that line, one of the things that's in here is they talked about rapport, and there are different levels of rapport for these characters. So so the different levels of rapport you have for player characters relating to NPCs is a pretty significant list, right? And it was comrade, friends, associates, neutrals, rival. That was a really interesting one. Rival, foes, and nemesis, right? And so I really like this aspect that they actually jumped into it and they're actually dealing with these aspects deliberately, right? And actually, one of the things that's very interesting within Forthright Open Roleplay is there is a lot of dials that are given to social interaction for NPCs and non-NPCs. And actually, I really, all right, so I actually think they did an excellent job, and there's a lot of content within there that's going to give a lot of small tools to a guide, okay? But one of the things I thought was really interesting is I think where, when you look at it and you see the level of detail that this game attempted to give to social interaction, and actually does give to social interaction, there's some very good mechanical aspects that the game brings to social interaction. What you're really seeing is, I think that game designers within the tabletop role-playing game space are starting to realize a big problem, right? And that is, when it comes to combat, you're going to find 100 pages of rules on how to run that in the game, at minimum 50 to 100 pages of rules in any tabletop role-playing game that are combat-specific. And when it comes to social interaction, you're going to see maybe 10 or 20, right? And so I think you see maybe 30 or 40 pages out of 190 that are devoted to social interaction, right? But one of the things that it really strikes me when I look at this game is, I think we have a problem overall as an industry, at the tabletop role-playing game industry level, that we really need to stop treating combat special, right? And we need to build systems where whatever your character is doing, it's going to be covered. Not just, so build a system where you have the same ability to build a log cabin as you do to kill 7 goblins, right? Because those are both tasks the character wants to do, and right now you're just going to find an immense amount of information on the combat section and virtually very limited amount of information on building a log cabin, right? And so I really think that's, that became very clear. Now, I really liked the approach to that Forthright Open Roleplay had, and one of the things I think is really interesting is not only did they do a great job of it, but you get the idea that this team, maybe in their next game, could be the ones that brings that kind of overall overarching rule set that would allow people to feel comfortable with the kind of crunchiness they want for combat, and have crunchiness for everything else your character would do, right? So I think that's really kind of interesting. One of the things that they talked about was there are these yellow bands that they put into the game that says this is important, right? And there was one yellow band that they threw in there. So the game says, if a protagonist cannot make the game, make sure that the protagonist remains on the game, in the team and with the team, right? But they're not going to help the team, right? And they said the reason why this is going to be is, they said, because if you send the character off to go scout ahead or something like that, then you have to do all these story antics to get the character back. And they're 100% right about that, right? So one, I didn't like this aspect of the game. And I'm going to talk about why I didn't like it. But I will say, the fact that it's here, you can tell everybody connected to this game are real dyed-in-the-wool tabletop role-playing game fans, because they, like almost all the traditional problems that you have, there's an answer for them. I don't like some of the answers that are given for solving problems, classic tabletop role-playing game problems, but I love the fact that this game covers them all, and they're not ignorant of any of them, right? Which that says that the creators of this game, they're really bringing a real level of mastery, and a lot of experience to the table, which I thought was really neat. So I think that's a terrible idea. And so they said, keep the player character there, and they're going to be shadow there, and have them fight shadow adversaries. So you're going to bring in some adversaries, and you're saying, oh, hey, your buddy's still here, but he's fighting 3 goblins that really none of you can touch. And I thought, wait, how's that not story antics? That's crazy, right? So, I really feel like you have a much worse problem if you just leave the protagonist with the group. And the reason why is, a lot of times you're going to get into serious trouble. There are going to be characters, dropping below 0 below 0 luck in this game. They use luck for hit points, and armor, which it's just a really cool innovation. Actually, I think it's a great idea. And harm. So if your harm reduces many of your protagonist to 0 luck, you have a whole bunch of injuries. Schmeckel is right there. He's still there, right? How is he not going to save us? It's a terrible, terrible idea. So I thought it was funny that there's a big yellow band to give this advice that I thought was really, really bad advice. But I did appreciate that it was there, and I just kind of thought it was humorous. And actually, I will tell you, reading this game was an absolute delight. That's another thing. If you are a dyed-in-the-wool tabletop role-playing game fan, this book is a delight. It feels like in many ways, the rules are presented in a really beautiful manner, in that it feels very much, it gives the rules with authority, right? But because you're reading this game that goes into depth and really leaves nothing, it really leaves nothing out, right? You really get the idea that you're having a conversation with somebody who knows your world, right? And so this team, this Forthright Open Role-Playing team, it's very clear that they've played many, many, many games. And that just comes out on every page as you go through the book. And I thought that was super, super cool. So I really liked it. One of the things that the game has is abstracted currency. I like abstracted currency, and I think it's done well here. It was abstracted currency, I think, is a great idea. So I just told you one of the yellow bands I didn't like. I'll tell you one of the yellow bands I absolutely loved. So they brought in this yellow band, which is saying, hey, this is important. Pay attention here. This is important. This changes the way you're going to play, right? Which I think that's it's really nice to highlight content that way, right? So along with abstracted currency, right? So your character doesn't have 300 gold. You have the ability to make checks to get things you need. Except there is absolutely no tracking of food, ammunition, or anything that there's likely to be more than 3 dozen of. You're not going to track it, right? And I love that. They're like, hey, we don't track food in this game. We don't track, ammunition, none of that. It's just your character has it, and that's that. And I 100% agree with that. That now, if you're running Torchbearer, there's a reason for it. Anywhere else, or an Apocalypse game, there's a reason for it. But it's okay. This game could easily run Apocalypse games. And I thought that was a great aspect of the game. I really like that they added that in. So no resource tracking as far as minimal resources, things that cost less than a gold piece, things like that. Brilliant aspect of the game. So I'm continuing to do my Forthright Open Roleplay review. Really don't love this game, and that's just me reviewing some of the aspects in it for this particular for today. Take care.